Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 3, Episode 1 of Art Engagement. I'm your host, Raj Putnam, and we have Shubha here as well. And we have a new addition to the Art Engagement team, Naren Ganeshan. He is a dancer and enthusiast currently residing in Canada. Welcome aboard, Naren.
Thanks, Raj, and thanks, Art Engagement, for getting me into the team. And hi to everyone.
Lovely. All right, our guest today is Mesma Belsare. She's a Bharatanatyam dancer, choreographer, and social activist in the Boston area. She was initially trained by Sri Shankar Hombal, then trained by Padma Shri Geeta Chandran in India, and is currently continuing her studies under Dr. Maya Kulkarni in New York City. Her professional dancing career spans over 2 decades and includes solo performances at the Lincoln Center, Asia Society, Alvin Alley Theater, to name a few. And she was twice nominated for the Brother Thomas Fellowship by the Boston Foundation, and once for the Dora Mahormore Award by the Toronto Alliance of the Performing Arts. Mesma Belsare, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, let's talk about your journey into Bharatanatyam. Shubha?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about when you first realized that you wanted to dance, because I read that you used to see a dance class and you were so inspired by people who were in there that at some point it switched inside you that you really wanted to learn dancing. Can you talk a little bit about it and also about your first 2 gurus and what influence they had on you?
Well, actually, it was my sister who was learning dance, and I wasn't at that time. And I would say that watching the dance was not what came first.
Mm-hmm.
First came listening to it, because I was going around I was so afraid of really approaching the guru and talking to him directly that I would go and stand outside the classroom where the classes were being held and listen to the sounds of the class being held for hours. And that was probably my initiation into formal education in Bharatanatyam, just being around the sounds of it. And then when I expressed the desire to learn it formally, my parents relented after a while, and they allowed me to go to Guru Shankar Hombal, who ran the Kalapadma Dance Academy in Bhopal, which is where I grew up. And Shankar sir was extremely kind and really a fine person, but he was also very strict with the discipline in dance. We had to adhere to a certain standard, a certain decorum, how to dress, how to enter the class, how to watch and learn. Every detail of learning was carefully handled by him. And he was also a wonderful caretaker. You know, he was just not a guru, but I learned a lot of finer things of dance from him. But most importantly, he laid a very strong foundation for me. It was about 5 years of only Adava and Alaripu training. So there was no exploration into, fancy themes and trying to do big compositions or anything like that. We would go and dance 3 days a week for 2 or 3 hours, only doing adavas and only walking, only doing the shlokas, understanding poetry, looking at the text. So there was a lot of that. Then my second guru, Padma Shri Geeta Chandran, really came into my life when I moved to Delhi for my undergraduate studies in applied arts at the Delhi College of Art. And it was by chance that I was introduced to her through a college student, a fellow student who had seen me on stage when I volunteered to be hypnotized by an expert, and the expert made the mistake of asking me in my state of hypnosis, what would you like to do if you had one thing to do in your life? and needless to say, I started breaking the stage with dance. And
So you broke into a dance on stage?
oh, of course. I mean, if you ask me what if you have one chance, only one thing that you're allowed to do in your lifetime, there was nothing else that I wanted to do. So and I still would respond the same way. And so I broke into this frantic movement, and a couple of people had to come and hold me down. It was kind of a trance-like state. So my friend, who became my friend later on, she said, I have to introduce you to my teacher, Geeta Chandran. She was teaching in her house then, and then I went to her, and anyway, it's a long story, but then I started learning from her, which was a completely fantastic initiation into the next step in my journey, Bharatanatyam. I can go into details, but I don't know how many details you want. But from Geeta, I learned all the really richness that dance brings with it and in your life. And she was very much into music and how music needs to be internalized so that dance and music become one. She was very particular about that. But also I used to observe her so much. I used to spend time in her house even when I was not required to be there, sit through her rehearsals, see how she interacted with the musicians. Even when she was not dancing, she seemed like she was dancing. So I would watch how she's picking up the phone, how she's talking, how she's walking, how does she wear her sari, how does she teach her students, how does she eat her food. Everything, I was like a sponge. I would sit there and watch, and people thought it was very strange because I didn't talk at all. I didn't talk because I was observing, and I was internalizing a lot. But anyway, so those were my initial two gurus who gave me, in spite of, I mean, not in spite of, but in addition to the knowledge in the art, they gave me a lot of love. And that was what was probably one of the most beautiful gifts that a student can receive is love and faith. They had a lot of faith in me. And they never said it, but they said it in so many actions that only I could understand.